Officially live. Make some noise. Hi to everyone watching at home. I'm Kat Graham. This is Ivana Chubbuck, my mentor and my teacher and my friend of 16 years and counting. Ivana invited me to do in conversation, an intimate talk to celebrate the new, revised, updated, iconic Power of the Actor that has changed so many lives, not just mine, not just actors, but people all over the world. And so I'm really, really excited because this is obviously one of my favorite people in the world. But what I'm most excited about is some of the conversations that we have, all of them really, are all so private that this will give you guys more insight into this incredible living legend. So, Ivana, what made you want to bring back Power of the Actor in the new revised edition?
Well, what happened was that I was asked, it was the 20-year anniversary last year, and I was asked, do you have enough stuff to add and create another edition of the book? And I said, do I have a lot of stuff? I have so much stuff. Because through the 20 years that have happened, I've been in workshops all over the world. I've worked with actors and brought many, many careers, actors, writers, and directors from all over the world to places that they didn't think they could get to, and places that they thought was only a dream, that we created the dream and made it a reality out of it. By using things that were coming up to me and saying, I have to figure out a solution to be able to make this person be able to authentically play a hitman or a murderer. How do we do that when that person isn't one? Obviously, most actors are not one, we hope. But how to authentically go there from places of like really understanding what is the psychology that makes someone want to go that far into actually destroying someone's life, and also creating a reality that, because the whole concept of the technique is really about how to take pain, insecurities, traumas, fears that normally create shame and self-destruction and defeat, and to rather use that same information to empower your goal with the fuel. The pain is such a powerful fuel to overcome and win with, which means that you have to find the spin. You can take anything and say, this could be the most negative thing that's ever happened to you or the most positive thing that's ever happened to you. So I came up with this, this is one of the new things called energy kills. And energy kills is about, as opposed to killing a human being, because people can't really relate to that. It's like something just can't ever be anything but awful, right? So what I did was I came up with, what can you kill that's an energy that keeps you from resolving something, finding closure in something, finding catharsis in something. For example, I have a very abusive mother who was very violent emotionally and physically, and also very mentally ill. So there was like a lack of ability to understand what her triggers were that would make her all of a sudden beat me so violently, or say, you're stupid and ugly, I wish I never had you, like just awful things. And then also very, very physical. So what I would kill, I wouldn't kill my mother as, like, say, a substitution. I would kill the energy of her voice on my shoulder that tells me I'm not good enough to love.
Oh, I see.
And so that means that when I kill that person, I'm killing that energy that stops me from being able to make choices that are very self-destructive.
So that's just like one of the new things that people are going to find in the book. But before we get into this, because
There's more. There's more.
I know there
There's
is,
more,
but I want people
there's
to.
a couple more things.
Okay.
Okay. So the old book.
Y'all are
there's-
so lucky. Y'all are so lucky. Y'all are getting the whole class. Go ahead.
Okay, but that's one of the things. Okay, so the other thing is addictions. In the other book, the original book, it's 5. I have 25 in the new one. What it is, and what the addiction is, what the person who's an addict to that particular thing, what it is solving for them. Again, a positive. So finding, like, there's all kinds of things of new, like emotional diaries, informational emotional diaries.
Now it's 30 pages.
30 pages, but it
pages.
was a half a page before, so with examples. There's just so much active listening, how to actively listen, how to do 3 or more person scenes, and like really be able to be present in a way that makes the story furthers the story. There's just so much new stuff.
So
in
much
there.
new stuff.
So much new stuff.
I have to say, because I want people to have, when I first, so I got up this morning, 3 a.m. in Canada, to get on a flight
She was
to
shooting
come.
a movie.
I'm shooting a movie. Thanks to her, I have not stopped. So we are working and doing all this stuff. And I got to the house and I was like, Ivana, here are my questions for you. I do good interviews and I give good interviews. And she was like, fuck that. What are you talking about? Like, just tell them they want to be a part of like the journey. Like, let's just talk about our relationship, how we met, and our story, and make it more relatable. So that was my one kind of intro tradition stuff, so you guys can kind of understand any new people that are like, why does Kat always talk about this woman? So that was the first question, was the very kind of politically correct interview question. Now that that's out of the way,
Gone.
when I was, I guess it was 2009, there was an actor who I became really close with, Ian, who had a book he would carry around with him like a Bible called The Power of the Actor. And I was obviously aware of the book a little bit, but, I didn't, it's like the Stanislavskis or or Michael Caine or like Stan Allen. I don't know that these people are alive. I just thought it was just like one of these classic acting books or whatever. And he's like, yeah, this is my coach. I was like, that's your coach? Amazing. And I was like, can I meet her? And he was like, I don't know. He was busy, didn't really, whatever. But this book was like, he was like, just read the book. So I got my own and I read the book. And this is before I'd even met her. And I read the book page by page, and cover to cover. And I was I was having some trouble first season with the show, to say the least. And
We're talking about Vampire Diaries.
right, if you hadn't heard of it. And I was like, I'm just going to read the book because I kind of am alone on an island out here and I don't know what's working and what's not. And basically, long story short, my grandmother in real life passed away, and I buried her. We had her funeral and buried her, and the day after I had to shoot a scene where my grandmother died. I didn't know Ivana at that point, but all I had was her book. And I was like, well, if I'm ever going to try it, this to do this substitution thing, this would be the moment. And it was my breakthrough. And I hadn't even met her yet. And after that, I mean, the crew clapped. They'd never given me, I wouldn't say the time of day before, but it was, you guys know that feeling. You feel it in the room. My grandmother was there.
When a crew does.
When a crew
claps. You always trust the crew.
You always trust the crew.
Because they tell the truth, because they don't need to lie to you.
Right. So then after that, I was like, I have to meet her. I have to meet her. Ian ain't introducing me. I don't care. I'm going to find a way. My ex at the time knew the guy that was working the door at one of her Christmas parties. No, for real. Y'all, this is some savage stuff.
No, but it's also I was famous for my Christmas in February.
In February.
It's always in February.
In February, I was on episode 6 of the show, or 6 or 7 of the show. I was right in the middle of filming, and I was like, you got to sneak me in. I was underage, so he had to sneak me in. And he he knew the bouncer or whatever. I literally snuck in. And I see her. And at that point, I was notoriously bad at continuity. And continuity, for anyone who's watching who isn't a part of film and TV, it's when you have to do the same thing over and over in the exact same way so it makes sense in the cut. I was terrible at it, but I do remember exactly where Ivana was standing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to run up on this lady. And she was there talking to a guy, and she was literally behind a velvet rope. And
I didn't put it there.
she didn't put it there, but she had, she's VIP. And I'm this like scraggly, nobody knows me. I'm a nothing from, like, I'm about to probably be killed off this show. No one knew who I was. No one, paid me the time of day. I was still pretty broke. And I just hopped over that. I'm like, I don't care. Like, this is my shot, Let's see how this woman is in real life, And I'm just going to tell her. I really want to work with her. She says she remembers your first impression of me and what you said to me. I don't remember, because as soon as she looked at me, everything kind of slowed down. And it was that moment where, like, my life completely changed. But you want to...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Because she said, you don't know me, and I snuck in, but I really want to study with you. And waiting for me to say, because I saw your face going, she's going to say no. And I thought, and I said, the tenacity that you had, to just show up and do that, that's the kind of people I love.
Really? I was like, she's going to kick me out of her party, this exclusive thing.
This is what's important is the point of this. Is the idea is, like, I always tell people to be proactive. You want something, go after it. Don't wait for someone to knock on your door. Don't wait for your agent to call. Don't wait to get the best agent. It's like, because you have to be proactive in getting what you want. And that, to me, is a story of a person who, she was yet to, for people to know who she was. The show had just been shooting. They hadn't aired yet. And,
that's right.
And so, so there was like that she couldn't pull that card. But what I loved about
there were no cards to be pulled, y'all. Like, no cards.
But it didn't matter, because what the card that I respect is the proactive nature of what you did. And you didn't let anything get in your way. And I said, that is why I want to work with you. That's exactly what I said to you.
Yeah, and so she gave me her number, and I called her, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to start immediately. And 16 years later, we have worked on every single thing together. Every single thing. And talking about, like, coaching and training and the importance of it, because there were some moments where I didn't necessarily love the script. And I was like, we'd be working so hard and spending so much time and hours and days, sometimes on one episode. And I would be like, no one's going to see this. I'm barely in this episode. I only have a line here, a line there. And I would kind of beat myself up about it. And you...
Well, here's what the point is. It's like she was being written as a victim. Right. And so in order for people to want to write more for you, because you kind of, a lot of actors say, well, they're not writing for me, so I'm not going to do the work. That's not what you did. But the thing is, they write for you when you give them something to write about.
Right.
And so what we did was we started empowering your choices, even though it was victim on the page.
Right.
Because remember, you could spin anything to make it a positive. And the book and the technique teaches you how to do that.
Yeah.
And so...
And that's actually in our story is in the new edition, which is crazy to me. Like, this 16 years later, it's wild.
But it's like the story about how he changed being written as a victim. I always call it taking the victim out of playing a victim.
Right.
Because and so finding the strength in it, finding the lesson, the life lesson.
And you used to tell me.
Yeah, but more importantly is finding the catharsis from the pain of this character that we then personalize to make whatever you're presently going through, finding your answers through your art.
Right.
And so it became profoundly raw and present. Mm-hmm. And that's what everybody's always looking for, is that dynamic reality, because it's easy to be honest. It's hard to be proactive. We watch the driver, we don't watch the passenger. So we were driving as ways to get over and get and to try to transcend all the things that were happening to your character that were pushing her down, were oppressing her, and finding ways that people would cheer you on to say, you can do this, you can do this, because you had that. And what we did is as our inner monologue,
Yeah.
that I'm not going to let you take me down.
Right.
I'm going to win in spite of and
Yeah.
because of you.
And we had the same character overall objective from the first episode we worked on together, 100 and something episodes later. Character had the same.
And what was it?
The objective was
To be.
I need to get my power back.
Yeah.
I need to
Because
get my power back.
you
And
get-
so if you watch all the Bonnie stuff from like season 1 to
It's really
to
so
the finale,
impressive.
it's literally the exact same, no matter what she was going through, no matter what storylines
But they
they
started
had.
writing you
But they
stronger.
started writing me stronger. But you know, as an actor, especially as an actress or an artist, you have all these like insecurities. And you know, she would always say, "You never know who's watching. Just keep doing the work. Keep doing the work." And all I cared about was being great. And I stopped caring about how anyone felt about it, because I was working through my truth. I was working through my stuff with my mom, my dad, my brother, you name it. So it became such a joy and such a release for me. And then what happened is this something I would have never thought. I would have never thought.
Well, and one of the things in terms of being a coach is that I go through it with you. So it's not
yeah.
just like, let's talk and be open about things. I think the whole idea is that I say me too a lot. And
Yeah.
me too, that reminds me of, you know, your mother, is
Yeah.
like my mother.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, and there's different people that are part of your life that reminds me of different people and part of my
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
or circumstances or situations. So it becomes the idea of building up a character and building up the environment for that character to prosper in is something that we do together as a team. And so it's important for your audience to know that they're not alone, that you are not alone, that your character and you, the person playing it, there's no delineation. I am this character. So the people who are watching you are going like, that person is going through the same things that I'm going through, but I'm shamed by it. I'm doing self-destructive things because of, but this character is not. This person is finding their way. They're being beat up, but they're not letting it take them down. They're being pushed, oppressed, but they're not letting that stop them. And so they're watching someone going like a rooting section. It's like, we want you to win. We want you to overcome, because you're doing that for us because they're relating. And I always tell actors, writers, and directors, you've got to apply your art from a place that's relatable to humanity, not to your culture, because culture is just the how we negotiate life via anthropological issues. But this whole technique is based on science, you know, science of psychology. Why? Why do people do the things they do? Good and bad.
I mean, you helped me understand
yeah.
villains, like a good villain, and they have justified objectives. And I didn't know that before you. And the best villains, whether it's Joker or whoever, you know, you really want them to win. The best villains you want to win in some weird way.
It's not weird. It's because what they're doing is they're reacting in a way that they're trying to solve their problems. So you look at Silence of the Lambs, for example, and what you have is a person who has screaming lambs in their head, Hannibal Lecter. Then you have Clarice, who also has screaming lambs in their head. They're both trying to solve the problem of getting rid of the metaphor of the screaming lambs in their head. But one is doing pro-law, one's doing anti-law. That's the same coin. So there's a commonality of pain. And together as a team, they're creating this friendship that is allowing them to find a solution, an ultimate catharsis. And the characters' journeys and the personalizations make it also true in terms of their own life. It does bleed into your own life because it's based in behavioral science, psychology, and cultural anthropology. Science is hard and fast. You can count on it.
Well,
And, yeah.
speaking of pain, let's talk about owning your pain. Because when we first started working together, I was not interested in necessarily owning my pain. I didn't just jump. I was devoted to her from the beginning, but in terms of looking at my life, honestly, I wasn't all the way ready to do it. I could deal with something as simple as understanding the pain of loss of my grandmother, but actually looking at deeper things, the abuse from my father, my own mom's illnesses, my brother, the addiction issues. I wasn't ready to necessarily face those. And so when we would sit down together, I'd be like, I'm good. I had a great childhood. Everything was great. Let's go to the next scene. This is fantastic. And she was not taking any of that shit. So do you remember what was like the turn for me where you got me to wake up and actually accept my pain and not be so scared of it? Because that's a huge thing for people, to be able to actually look at the heartbreak and loss of their life and actually have accountability for it and say, I went through this.
Well, one of the things is that everybody's different in opening them up. So, not there's ways to deal with each person and their particular issues. In your case, it was you thought if you admitted to the things that really happened to you, that it would break you somehow. And so I said, not only will it not break you, but you'll find that it will lighten your load. A lot you're carrying, and it becomes like, it starts to fester inside your system. And so things you don't deal with, I mean, this is science, they fester inside your system. And so as an artist, you have someplace to put it. So this is great. As an artist, you can apply those things into the work that allows you to funnel it to make it a beautiful picture, as opposed to self-destructing from it or feeling that it's going to cause you breakage. So with explaining that this is going to make you so much more dynamic. It's like, this is when you said, when I said, well, what really happened, I'd ask you a question, and the questions would reveal the answers, but that doesn't bother me anymore. And I said, well, I'm hearing a lot of emotion when you say it doesn't bother you anymore. So clearly that's not the case.
Right.
So, but here's the thing. It's like when you say it, when you are able to say it, I just feel, I'm looking at you, you feel lighter.
Yeah.
And you feel like, and the fact that you have to create a more dynamic end result. We want to be dynamic. We want to be extraordinary. We don't want to be ordinary. Everybody denies their stuff. That's just what people do, because it feels like your conscious mind helps you to be able to say, if I deal with this stuff, then I will have to admit some kind of being a loser, being somebody who deserved some of that awful stuff that happened to you. But what you're working from this place of this technique, which is based on really trying to say, this is, embrace your flaws, embrace the thing. You can't change the past, but you can use it and see it differently. I always say, like, pain equals prosperity in some way, spiritually, emotionally, and oftentimes actually, because we do more when we are threatened. We do more when we feel like we need to change really horrible circumstances. We are much more, we're driven, we're fueled by to being proactive, and we always like to watch the journey of a winner. And someone who's a winner is not someone who necessarily wins, but someone who tries really hard to win. Like the Rocky story. Everybody remembers Rocky, the #1, as having won the bout, but he didn't. But because he tried to win so hard, he became a winner in our eyes. Now, I'm going to give a little science lesson here about being a winner, and that's why it's so important. It's a big element about this technique is being a winner from those kinds of circumstances. Is that the early man, Neanderthal man, before we even became upright, there's proof from archaeologists that that they played games, that there was sport. So that's millions of years ago. Theater started 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece. So if we do the math about what's primally connecting to not only our spirit to perform, to create art, but to also change the world, to make people feel like there's that these things that happen to you aren't for naught. It's like it really is part of the human journey, and the people that we respect, that we look up to, that become our mentors, that become our leaders of the world, are people that utilize that stuff to say to say that I am going to be a stronger, more empowered person, and ultimately a winner because of it.
Right, and it parallels your life as, you know, the character, but also as a person, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of my audience is like a lot of young girls, and they're just like, you know, looking for themselves. And I think they asked me, you know,
Yes, you have a lot of young girls.
they're young and they're trying to find themselves, and I'm always just like, read Power of the Actor, but they're like, I'm not an actor. I'm like, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's about finding your voice and owning the things that make you different, owning the things that you're insecure about, really owning it like a flag. And
But it's not we have to be careful. People say like owning it and then sitting in it.
you don't want to indulge in your pain and woe is me, because then you go and you fall into victim.
Exactly. And so the thing is, we wanted to be able to own it in a different way. We're owning it as it's fuel. Just think of it as fuel. It's like I always say, you know, sadness digs a hole, anger moves mountains. And so the fuel that makes us angry that this happened pushes us to do things that I didn't know I was going to ever do that. I didn't know I had the power to do that. Like the mother that has a baby underneath a car has the strength to lift that car up because she has that anger and that passion to save her child's life. And that's what we want to duplicate for the world. And in order for us to do that, we have to take things that are that powerful, like saving your baby's life.
Right.
And how do we do that? It's a 12-step system in the book on how to do that, with lots and lots and lots of formulas, literal formulas that you would follow, and be able to feel what it feels like to be stoned, or how to feel like you're being pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, and there's so much in the book. Like, I remember, even if you look at Love in the Villa, when I'm drunk, we did the drunk exercise for that scene, and like Netflix loved that scene. It became one of the most famous scenes. You know, when we did the gray matter. You're seeing gray in Duplicity, where they had knocked me out and thrown me on the boat.
Exercise in the book on how to play.
And we're just
unconscious.
It's literally like technique after technique after technique after technique, number one after number one after number one after number one, and that's what we do. So, but people have asked me because everyone that knows me knows my process, and they've been like, you know, what did you do differently when you played Diana Ross versus when you did Bonnie or whatever? And I'm like, it's the same. They're like, what's your process? I'm like, it's the same process for every single project film.
But what we're doing is we're taking we're taking her fraction of what that character would be and turning it into a whole, so it could become a total character.
Right.
Because we're not always just being Kat.
No.
What we're doing is saying we have a lot of different people inside of us, and so it's up to us to like figure out like the villain in us, the hero in us, the saint in us, the the person who would want, and like in all career moves, like whatever character you play, what they do for a living defines you too, and you're constantly pulling out all these like pieces that are like defined this way, and then you're creating a whole out of it. I know we were going to get to some questions, but I think I'd like to talk about something else.
Okay.
Which I never talk about, and I'd like to talk about here.
Okay.
But playing mental illness, which is pretty much most of the characters you're going to be playing, is some version of mental illness that they have.
Yeah.
And so people always struggle with that, and I find that the easiest way to deal with this, and I figured this out. My father was a lawyer, but he decided at some point when I was about 13 years old that he wanted to be a psychiatrist. And so he had these books that were case histories of different, like, bipolar, schizophrenia, like all these different, like, case histories of what the symptoms were and what caused them, these kinds of things. And so I thought I was very fascinated by this book. And I every mental illness, I'm going, I have that one. Next one, I have that one too. That one as well. So through the whole book, I determined at 13 years old I was one very screwed up person, okay? Because I had every mental illness known to man, or at least was written in this book, right? It was a textbook. And I realized a couple years later, as I was old enough to understand people a little bit better than a 13-year-old does, that we all have everything inside of us, but in small amounts. But what makes it a disease is because it's large amounts. And so that to me is really interesting. And the idea is that you just have to tackle that little amount that's in all of you, whatever the mental illness is of that particular person. And you create a whole out of the fraction and turn it into a whole. And you will be able to relate to it because the whole concept of mental illness is that you have it in amounts that are untenable to deal with. Because we have all the little amounts. And so I'd like to just say that we have so many people inside of us that needs to be explored. I tell people all the time that you need to be a detective in your work. Look at your characters like you would forensically. See what they are and who they are in today's world, how they operate, what they do for a living, how they deal with their relationships, what fears that they seem to are tackling and seem to they're trying to overcome. All these things you have to figure out, like, where did that come from? What happened in their childhood that came in terms of the character first, then personalizations. What happened to that character that created the end result? That's called profiling. And the science of profiling is forensic. It's very forensic. And basically this technique is very, very much based in forensics. And so when you're doing your detective work, you put your detective hat on, you explore and you learn more about it. I call it the Google machine does a lot of stuff for you. And you can learn a lot from just trying to figure out some of the basis of why that person does whatever that they do. And then you could also glean, make some decisions based on this 2 plus 2 could possibly equal that 4. Given someone who's is horrified of I'll just use my example from me.
You can use my examples.
Well,
if you need to.
That's what I came up with. I'm just
Okay.
going to say.
No.
I'm so terrified of cockroaches. But that's,
Really?
Yeah, because I have a phobia about it. I mean, I see what
I didn't know that. You learned something new.
Well, and that came from my mother being a hoarder. And so I lived with so many cockroaches. I'd wake up with cockroaches on me. We'd turn on the light when we come home from, like, going out to dinner or whatever, and there'd be thousands of cockroaches lining the wall. So, like, just thinking about it, so it's like, so the thing is like, where did it come from? There, okay? But these are characters that someone else has written. Now, you have to then take
Yeah.
What would have caused that for that person?
Right.
And then when you get into personalizations, then you duplicate it from your own life.
Yeah. Let's brilliant.
I think we're gonna like forego the questions.
Wait, I have one more question
okay,
because
what-
I just mine that I asked. It
Okay.
wasn't written in my notes, but I want to talk about, and then we'll go to questions.
No, we're not gonna do that.
We're not going to do the thing?
No, because it's getting too long now.
It is?
Yeah, they did the motion.
Oh, they did the motion. I'm not even paying attention to y'all. I'm sorry.
because-
I have one more question, though.
Okay, no.
This is for me. No, I got to ask it. I got to ask it.
No, I want you to.
The art of
Please
letting
ask that
the
question.
art of
If she doesn't
letting
ask that question, I'll
no
be very
this
pissed
is
off.
I get to this is very selfish for me. I want for you to talk about because we would have these like intense. I've done the emotional diary. I've done all of the character backstory. I've done every single technique. I've broken it down to a science forensically. We've looked at scenes each way, sideways, forward, every way you can look at it. We've done it, and then she says to me, "Now let it go."
Okay,
Let's talk about the art of now let it go.
That's step 12. Let it go.
Let's talk about 12.
Everywhere in the world I go, they said that's the hardest one to do.
It is I just got chills. It is the hardest one to do. And I'll tell you why. So I'm on set and I have to do some stuff about my late brother who was murdered. That's the substitution that I'm using for this character scene. And I don't want to let it go because I'm worried that I'm not going to represent my brother or my sadness about him the right way. I'm like, I got to hold on to it. I got to hold on to it. This is how I felt. This is how I did. This is how I did. And then to just let it go and just to trust that it's there, that my love for him is in the scene, that all of the soul work, because it's soul work, is in there, and to trust yourself. How do you teach the letting? How do you let it go?
Well, in that particular case, I would just say, put his spirit in the room with you, and this is for you, and that will let it go easily. The letting go part of it is the trusting, and it's hard. But if you really have a hard time trusting, you feel like it's all going to float away once you let it go. Things like that, I've done that before. If you're using someone that's passed away, I say, put them in the room. This is for you. And it just all these really cool things happen to you because you now are expressing something that's with the spirit of someone that you never got to say goodbye to. And so there's kind of a memorial in that, a kind of closure in that allows you to have feelings that you never thought were going to come up. We want to surprise ourselves. We want to create impulses.
That's right.
And the only way we can have impulses is if we let it go. In that particular case, I would use that.
Yeah.
In other cases, it would be then figuring out whatever the scene objective is.
Yeah.
Just go after that scene objective, and the moment before, if it's really strong, it will take you to places that you didn't know you were going to go to. Because when you hold on to stuff, it's gonna be good, but it won't be great.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is be great, right, everybody?
That's right.
We want to be great. Good isn't good enough, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So we're gonna answer some questions from the world. Are we allowed to, or we have to wrap it up? Really? Really? Okay. You guys don't understand. This is like the best for an artist. I mean, I'm assuming everyone in here is an artist, or so you guys know that this is the good
someone's
stuff.
going to raise their hands, and I'm not.
You are now.
Why would they do that?
Okay. Okay, these are from Ivana. Okay. Does Kat still use the 12 steps to this day? We know I do. Ivana, as a pro, what's it like seeing me progress through the years? You don't have to answer that. How important
I
is
feel like a proud mama. I feel like a proud mother. I really do. People always ask me when someone wins an Oscar or says my name or whatever, and all the things that they can conceivably say. That I feel like a proud mother.
Yeah.
And so it's not like I'm taking it in and go, aren't I great? What I do is I think about you as my child, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's more coming from a place of just utter pride, and
Nice.
also very important because my mother was never proud of me. My father never expressed pride in me. It's such an important thing for me to give it to other people because I get it back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I have her initials tattooed on my ankle. Don't make it weird. We did it together, okay? I thought she was, in my defense, I thought she was gonna get my initials on her. But it was her birthday and we just decided and we were tired, we went to go eat after. So it was just me. So funny. Okay, how do you take someone with absolutely no experience in acting and turn them into, it's a successful actor, but there's so many definitions of what makes someone successful. For me, just being a good actor makes me feel successful. But to some people, you know.
Well, I think basically the person's asking, where do I begin?
Where do I begin?
Yeah.
Where do I begin?
Everybody has to begin somewhere, you know? So the whole thing is, it's like you don't start off being great. You have to study. The answer is study, and more study.
And more study.
Okay, and then also make bold choices in the choices that you make, because bold choices equal being more behavioral, being more physical in your work. But it also means being more bold in making inner choices that are scary to look at. Because when you face down your fears, you become fearless. So that's one of the reasons why people don't open up so easily, because they're afraid.
Yeah.
And so, but if once I help people realize through talking about it that they not only feel better, they feel relieved. They feel that there's a release and a relief that comes from it. So it's like it actually is a very powerful way to heal.
Yeah. P.S. Wacher wrote on Instagram, is it always a losing objective if you actually don't get it?
Well, it's you have to make an objective that you do in some form get it. So because we don't want to play losers, we want to play winners. So even if you die at the end of your journey, you have to think about, why is it that I needed to, again, energy kill, die, because that part of me, like I had a girl who used this is the energy kills. It's like if someone kills you, what is it you want to have killed inside of you? She had so much fear, like she made so many decisions from fear. So the person that gave it to her was her mother, who made all these decisions from fear. So if she had her mother kill that off in her, the one who gave it to her, she could release herself from it. And so she did that in this play she was doing, used that, and she ended up starting to tackle those fears, because she had a fear of men being in her life. She had a fear of like just even going after her dreams. And she ended up booking jobs and getting a boyfriend, and I think they're about to have a baby. Wow. You know, so it's like she was able to get through this by utilizing, you know, those things. And so it's like the whole thing about bold choices and study, work ethic. It's like all the people that I've worked with that have become like major players and award winners. That's the recipe.
Yeah.
That is
and
the
sometimes
recipe.
it's not the choice is not necessarily what you think it's going to be, because I'll have an idea, you know, I'll do the inner work before I come to Ivana. I'll be like, oh, I thought of this, and she'll be like, I know when it's going to be really good, because she'll be like, I don't know why I thought of this, but, and then I know, and I'll just she was like, I thought about this person for this, and it totally works, but it's sometimes not who you think it is. Or why you think it is.
That's why in terms of the book will teach you how to do emotional diaries. It helps you figure out
the subconscious,
the subconscious,
and the automatic writing.
Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit about emotional diaries?
Get the book.
Get the book. That's how you gotta get the book.
It's really complicated.
And my last question, I'll open it up to y'all. I won't be selfish. I promise. This is my last.
Okay.
And then
I
have to talk about Legendland. Let's talk about Legendland.
Okay.
Let's talk about what you want people to to take away from the
okay.
Chubbuck technique 100 years from now?
Okay. Um, so 100 years from now, when I'm still going to be alive.
That's right. With perfect hair.
I just want people to always feel that something that I needed to figure out, which I did figure out around 50 years old, and I want people to figure out way earlier, which is your flaws, your insecurities, your fears is what makes you special. It's what makes you unique, what makes you quirky and mannered and interesting to be around. So I want people to get whatever you think is the thing that people don't like you for is often the thing, most of the time, that they love you for. And I think that's a very important thing for us to end this on. She's crying.
I'm not.
Those are real tears. You didn't have any spray in your eyes, though.
Somebody on set said they came up to me and they were looking at the scene and they came up to me with one of those I guess they're like, there's these things that they give to actors.
Or something for crying, yeah.
For crying. And I asked that they take it off the film set, so I hope no other actors need it because it's gone. I'll hand them the new book instead. So thank you guys for joining us, and please give a round of applause to the iconic, the legendary, brilliant, unparalleled, untouchable Ivana motherfucking Chubbuck!
Thank you.